for a few days. I called the police, who told me to wait with the body until they arrived. Being in the middle of nowhere, it took a while for them to arrive, and it got dark, and I just sat there in the dark with him for a long time. It turned out he had committed suicide. For a long time afterwards, I had dreams about him, and he would talk to me and not nice things, mainly about how he was angry I had disturbed his resting place, and he wanted me to kill myself. Probably just my imagination, but all pretty disturbing at the same time. He still turns up in my dreams from time to time, and no doubt he will be tonight after typing this. Creepy. Okay, here's the next one. About 2 years ago, I was driving home from a family reunion pretty late at night, and the drive was about 2 hours. I didn't stay the night because I had to be back for work the following day. Most of the drive was on the road with dense bushes and trees on either side. The real creepy ones that you see in a lot of movies. Anyway, I had been driving for about 45 minutes, and I started to get really tired. You know how tired you just suddenly become out of really nowhere? Well, yeah, that's what happened to me. I knew I wasn't gonna last, but I didn't come across any place that I felt I could park and safely sleep. Anyway, after it became really clear to me that I wasn't gonna find a place to pull up, and my tiredness wasn't going to go away, I did something very questionable. I pulled over to the side of the road onto the grass behind some bushes to try and hide my car from anybody else who was going to come past. The roads weren't empty. I came across another car every few minutes or so. I made a mental note that the time was 11:22, and then I fell asleep sometime after I was awoken by a scratching sound. I looked at the clock. It was 11:50. The sound stopped after a few seconds, and because I was still extremely tired, I didn't bother looking around and simply went back to sleep. I was later awoken by the same sound, and it was now 12:40. So a scratching sound, almost like this. This time it really freaked me out because the sound didn't stop. The thought ran across my mind that it was just an animal inspecting the car, but why would it return almost an hour after it had left the previous time? I looked in my rear view mirror and just managed to catch a glimpse of something running away into the forest. Now at the time I thought it was the damn hook killer. You know, that one that scratched the couple's car and then slaughtered the guy when he got out to investigate. F that, I thought to myself, so I got the hell out of there. There was a bend no more than 100 yards up the road, and as I came around it, there was a car parked off the side of the road with the driver's side door opened. I slowed down just to look to see if there was anyone in there. There wasn't. Then I looked in the rear view mirror. I didn't see anything, and all of a sudden, this guy comes sprinting around the corner. He starts screaming at me, shouting stuff like, hey you, get the F out of your car. I noped the F out of there and sped off. I never saw the guy again. Moral of the story, don't sleep on the side of a deserted road. Never see me ever doing that. Like, I don't know, I feel like you'd be smarter at least, like, sleeping where, like, in, like, I don't know, like a Walmart parking lot or something. Maybe that's a bad idea too, but I just kind of felt like that one would be a bad idea, especially, like, in the woods. Like, no thank you. A few summers ago, I went for a bike ride. what's just creepy is the way he did the shh and just ran away. Like, that's creepy. Now I'm gonna do some phone tapping. I was 17 and I had just gotten my license. Back in high school, my friends and I had made it a mission to find abandoned houses to throw parties in. We had a few good candidates, but the mother lode was this house I would pass on my way home from work. It was an underdeveloped shell of a huge home with a large property in the back. I had told one of my friends about it, and one day, before we went to see a movie, I took him to the house. It was about dusk in the summer, so I had my headlights on. I pulled into the front of the house, and we were there for like 10 seconds tops before we pulled back to the main road. A minute later, this big truck pulls up behind us, with its high beams on and riding our ass. My friend and I took note of it, but paid it no mind as we headed back to the main road. At the light, I turned right, but the truck cut through the gas station at the corner and blocked us off. Out of the truck comes this big hulk of a man, and my friend and I are literally shitting our pants. He taps on the window and I roll it down. Now the really freaky part is that as this is a busy road, and now all of a sudden there is literally no one in sight. He asks us what we were doing at the house, and I quickly lied and said that we were just making a U-turn. He stares at us for a few seconds, smiles, and sends us on our way. To this day, the house remains unfinished, and I'm convinced it's a drug operation of some sort. Don't go into abandoned houses, man. I agree with that. I think that that could be just something that they use, like an underground drug house, or who even knows what the heck it is. Just creepy stuff. Okay, now on a little different Reddit topic, we're gonna be doing long haul truckers. So like truckers, what's the creepiest, most paranormal thing that you've seen at the road at night? So I have an actual story to talk about. So at my job that I worked at for like 2.5 years, it was kind of like in like the automotive industry, and there was one guy that I would talk to from time to time. Like, he was like a regular customer. He was like a corporate customer. Like, he was really cool, but he was somebody in his family was like in like the trucker world, but he would like, whenever truckers would quit, he would go pick up their trucks like in the middle of, you know, the US. Like, if a truck, like truckers would literally be like in the middle of nowhere and just like quit, and then the truck would be abandoned. And he told me that one time he was on the job and he was like in the middle of nowhere, and he saw like a body like laying flat on the ground, and he was like, oh my gosh, like it's a dead body, and he got really scared. So he immediately called the cops, and he got really freaked out. He questioned if he should walk up to it, but he's like, no, I've seen a ton of like documentaries, like I'm not going near it, like I'm not getting my, like he's like, I'm a trucker, I'm not getting my DNA anywhere close to that. Like, so he didn't, he just called the cops, and then when the cops got there, him and the cop, I guess, walked up to what they thought was like a dead body together, and like the cop, I guess, like used his foot to like nudge this like man on the ground, and the guy didn't move. So like, the police is like making calls, and then all of a sudden, what they thought was the dead guy like jerks up. He's like, he jerks up, and he just starts talking like gibberish, and it was just like either like a homeless. What was happening? He just said that was one of the creepiest things that ever happened. Be a bit off the mark, but it still scared the crap out of me. I was headed west on I-76 here in Denver, and I was cruising along about 70 miles an hour. Now, out of nowhere, I saw a massive, almost solid cloud of what looked like to be dirt coming at me. I'd say it was at least 20 feet wide and 10 feet tall. I scanned ahead of me, but couldn't see a vehicle that it was coming from. With nowhere to go, I slowed down and took the hit, hoping there wasn't anything big enough in there to come through the windshield or jack up my truck. It was pretty loud, and as I smashed through it, the instant it hit, I knew it wasn't dirt. I immediately hit the that swarm if I was walking. It would kill the crap out of anything that was in their path. The next one, I was driving near Las Vegas at around 3 a.m. I had been following a few black SUVs along the highway for a good hour or so. They had Nevada plates that were all single digits in order 1, 2, 3. Suddenly, they pulled off the highway down a dirt path. There was no mile marker or cactus that would indicate a path there. It was literally dirt. After pulling off the road, they turned their lights off. I didn't stick around. It was creepy. And then there is a comment underneath it that says, according to the DMVNV website, special license plates are also issued to a number of Nevada law enforcement agencies, state elected officials, and Nevada congressional delegation. Plate 1 belongs to Nevada governor, 2 belongs to lieutenant governor. Weird. I'm gonna do a little bit of mic brushing. Okay, I'm not a truck driver, but once I was driving through the Canadian Rockies late at night and had passed through a small town. So I'm driving through the pitch black and I need to pee and have a smoke. But because it's so dark, I feel the last rest stop for the next... Because it's so dark, I missed the last rest stop for the next bit for a while. No problem, the highway is completely deserted. So I pull to the road. I pull to the side of the road off the dark. I have my pee while staring into the dark, then light up a cigarette and stand by my car. As I'm standing there, I see a figure of a man just walking out of the tree line. I'm miles from civilization, patchy cell service, and there isn't a soul on the road. I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me, and maybe it was a deer, but nope, it was actually a man. I calmly walk back to the driver's door and get in. So I calmly walk back to the driver's door, get in, locking the doors behind me. I keep my eyes on the guy as I nervously smoke and have my car and drive ready to peel out. But for some reason, I just stayed put. The guy walks right up to my passenger door and knocks on my window. I crack the window and I ask, "What's up?" Another creepy thing that just happened. He replies to me in a very serious tone, "I need you to call the cops." I cautiously ask why, and he tells me that he had gone out into the woods to kill himself, but he couldn't go through with it because he had thought of his daughters right before he was about to do it. I call the cops while the guy quietly cries outside. My goodness. He had a kitchen knife that he was going to use on himself, so I stayed in the car and advised him to maybe leave the knife on the ground before the cops arrived. The cops came and got him, but before they left with him, I gave him a solid heart-to-heart and wished him well. I still think about him, and I hope he was able to turn things around. Oh my goodness. Well, that one was creepy, but also amazing because he was there at the exact time to help this guy. So, that one's really scary, but I'm kind of glad. Well, I am glad. Okay, this is going to be the last one. I pull into a Purdue plant, drop my empty trailer, where they allow bobtails to sit right next to a nice little pond. My pickup was in 12 hours, so I do my PTI and lie down in the bunk. At As we make eye contact, the tapping at my door starts again. I say F it and throw open the driver door, and there's another damn goose waddling away with all the speed it can manage, honking like a 5-year-old who just found the horn on his new bike. The pond I parked next to had a ton of them just digging around. Needless to say, it was hard to sleep that night because every couple minutes the damn geese would peck at my door or land on the cab and waddle around. Okay, that was actually really funny, and I'm really glad that we ended on kind of a funny note because I don't want to freak any of you guys out. Alright, my little sugar plums, well, that is going to conclude this video. I really hope that you guys enjoyed.